Here's something I wasn't expecting to say when I got the iPad 10th generation into the office. I really love this iPad, and yes, there's some inherent strangeness and some eyebrow raising decisions, but overall it delivers a really solid iPad experience. And in this video I wanted to give you 5 reasons of why I really like it, and then also talk about where it really stumbles. So let's get right into it. First off, let's talk about the design, because Apple have really done a great job of bringing the pro level design down to this more entry level model, and this looks just like the iPad Airs and the iPad Pros and the iPad mini now, and it all feels very succinct, which is nice. Not to mention the color choices on these new iPads are absolutely wonderful. I've got the yellow one here which absolutely pops. It's more of like a golden sort of yellow, but all the other colors they brought out for these are super nice too. We're also getting the Touch ID sensor, which is really nice to see. That's coming over from the iPad Air and the iPad mini models. Not to mention we're finally getting USB-C on these iPads as well, which is absolutely awesome to see, and it's high time that the Lightning connector was cancelled on the iPads. Sadly, it is still kicking around on that lower 9th generation iPad, but it's nice to see moving forward that the iPads are clearly going all USB-C, and this is really nice to see. Second up, they finally moved the webcam to the top of the iPad when it's in landscape mode, and this is absolutely awesome to see, and honestly it's the right place for that webcam. For context, this is how I look when I'm on the iPad Pro for a video call. Notice how I'm off to the side a little bit and I'm not quite looking at the middle of the screen. And this is an example of me on a video call on the 10th generation. Notice how everything's a lot more central and doesn't look like I'm looking past you or off to the side. It's just a much better placement. For number 3, let's talk about power. This iPad now has the Apple A14 chip, up from the A13 from last year from the iPad 9th generation, and it's all around a really excellent performer. We saw that chip in the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Pro series, and in this iPad 10th generation, it really does just fly. It means all of your day-to-day normal tasks for the iPad are absolutely handled with no problem. Kind of like every other iPad I've used recently is the fact that these just seem to fly no matter what sort of chip they have in them. All the iPads are very quick at the moment, and that's really nice to see. I've been using the M2 iPad Pro a lot recently, and in day-to-day tasks when you're just writing notes or editing photos or typing things up or going on the internet or doing lots of iPad based tasks, it's very difficult to see a real true world difference. And the only place where I have been seeing a difference, which might be interesting to you if you're a student, is in gaming. The M2 and the M1 iPad Pros and the iPad Airs absolutely fly with gaming. There's no problem at all, and for the most part this iPad 10th generation is the same, apart from when you load in really big games. So if we look at something like Genshin Impact, you're going to be running that on medium settings here to get your 60 frames per second. Otherwise, the power in the A14 chip here is absolutely perfect for this iPad. Okay, next up is one which might be a little bit divisive out there, but I actually think it's a really decent thing for this iPad, and that's the screen. The screen update from the 9th generation here to the 10th generation is absolutely awesome. And this isn't a laminated screen. If you're not sure what that means, it basically means there's a small air gap between the glass on the front and the actual screen below. And you'd be hard pushed to see that here. Usually, especially on the 9th generation iPads, you can see that clear as day. But Apple have done a really good job on this generation of really hiding it. I'm a lot more used to the Pro models and the Air models where there's no air gap at all. However, if you hadn't told me straight away, it would have taken me a moment to notice, because that's how good it is. Otherwise, the screen on here is really good. It's plenty bright enough, and it gets a lot brighter than the last model. And for all types of content consumption or just playing games or for doing anything iPad related, it's a perfectly decent screen and it delivers a really good experience. Okay, so my last point is this keyboard that Apple have put out for the iPad 10th generation. It's kind of like a shape-shifting thing, and the design of it's really wild and really good. This keyboard comes in 2 parts. There's the actual keyboard part itself, and then it has a back portion which then sticks onto the iPad with magnets again, which has got this kickstand, so you can put it at loads of different levels. You can have this keyboard in a few different ways. You can have it stood up on your desk as per normal and adjust the height with the kickstand, or you can detach the keyboard completely, spin it around, reattach it, and then fold it behind the iPad to have a completely kind of tablet-based experience. And then if you want to, you can just completely detach it and use this just as a kind of kickstand for the tablet. And in short, this keyboard is great. The trackpad is actually bigger on here than it is on the Magic Keyboard for the Pro and Air models, and the travel on the keys is great, and you're also getting a function row. And I didn't realize how much I missed things like brightness controls and volume controls on a keyboard until I didn't have it in my hands, and it's really nice to have. So yeah, I really like this keyboard, but unfortunately it does fall apart when you want to use it on your lap. Using it on a desk is absolutely fine, there's plenty of stableness and sturdiness there, but the second you put this on your lap to try and get some work done, to try and type, to try and do anything, it's just so unsteady and it doesn't really work too well, which is a bit of a shame. The other thing I'm not huge on, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, is the fact that this keyboard is proprietary. It doesn't work on any other iPad thanks to its design, and that means that it's kind of the most pro-level focused keyboard because of that function row, but for one of the most entry-level iPads, which is just kind of strange. Before talking about the iPad's bad points, I wanted to thank the sponsor of this video, RHINOSHIELD. RHINOSHIELD are well known for making some of the most protective and customizable phone cases out there, and today I wanted to show you the new array of iPhone 14 cases and screen protectors. The case I have here is the Solid Suit, made in collaboration with one of my favourite artists, Pyham Studio, but there's literally thousands of designs to choose from, including collaborations with PewDiePie, Star Wars, Marvel, and loads more. And of course, if none of those are for you, you can always upload your own designs to take your customization even further. RHINOSHIELD have a huge range of different cases, offering varying degrees of protection that are perfect for keeping your phone protected from bumps, scrapes, and drops, and the MagSafe compatible cases have twice the magnetic pull of Apple's official MagSafe accessories, making them one of the most powerful magnets on the market. Combine that with their screen protectors and you're getting a full 360 degrees of protection for your device, and it's not just for iPhone either. Most flagship devices are covered, and there's a lifetime replacement warranty on all cases too. Not to mention, RHINOSHIELD are having the biggest sale of the year right now with Black Friday. Loads of products are up to 60% off, and if you use my code BYTE-BF, you can get an extra 10% off in addition to the sale too. So if you want to check these out, follow the link in the description, and of course a huge thank you goes out to RHINOSHIELD for sponsoring this video. So that's all the good things out of the way with, and I wanted to talk about the inherent strangeness of this iPad 10th generation, because even though in a vacuum it's a wonderful iPad which does most things really well, when you take it in the wider kind of experience of all the iPads, it's just so strange. And one of those things which start off the strangeness is the support of the Apple Pencil Generation 1. Straight out the gate, I'm happy to say it, I wish this iPad 10th generation supported the Apple Pencil too, so it could snap onto the side and get charged and have all the benefits of the second generation pencil, which by itself is fine. This pencil still delivers a really decent drawing and handwriting experience, I've got no problem with that, but it's just the way this thing connects. This has still got a lightning port on the end, which means to connect it to this iPad, you have to buy a separate dongle to put it into the iPad to get it to charge, to get it to pair, and it feels like a really kind of weird decision to make. I can only imagine Apple have done it for a couple reasons, and obviously I don't know, they've run the numbers, they know what they're doing, but I can imagine it's because if they moved the webcam, then perhaps that's getting in the way of where the Generation 2 would dock and charge. And the other reason, and this is probably a really big stretch, but because most entry-level iPad users already have an Apple Pencil 1, and lots of places like schools and university who have invested heavily into that ecosystem, might just be nice to not have to buy a new thing and to keep their Apple Pencil Generation 1. I'm going to buck the trend here and say I actually prefer plugging this in with a wire rather than just plugging it straight into the port, because that always felt super dangerous and felt like it was just going to snap off. But it's still a really odd decision. I was hoping the Apple Pencil Generation 1 could slowly get left behind with this iPad and we'd all be moving on the Generation 2, but it looks like it's here to stay for a few years at least. Another thing which I think is really strange is the keyboard in general. As mentioned, I think it's a great keyboard, and it really is, but it only works on the iPad 10th generation, meaning it's kind of locked out on the Pro models, and arguably this is the most pro level keyboard they've ever made. It's got a bigger trackpad, it's got that function row which a lot of people really love, and I know a huge amount of iPad Pro users would probably prefer to use this style of keyboard. I also think there's a bit of a missed opportunity here to put a holder for the pencil on it somewhere. Because this is proprietary and this iPad only uses the Apple Pencil first generation, there's nowhere for it to snap on, and I think this keyboard case could have been a solution for that too, even if it was just a pencil loop or something like that. And I'm sure over the years lots of students and lots of people have misplaced this pencil. I know a few times I've lost it for kind of weeks at a time only to re-find it, and if there was a way to attach this to the iPad, even if it was through this keyboard case, then that would be great, but it's not quite here. And my final point about all of that is it's weird that this iPad has upgrades over the Pro model. And a really good example of that is that webcam. They've moved the webcam to the right place in this model, but then on the iPad Pro models which have just come out, that webcam has stayed in the same wrong place. And that also goes to this keyboard. That keyboard only works on that iPad, which is arguably the most professional level keyboard we've got, but it only works on this entry level model, which is strange. And then to top it all off with the Apple Pencil 1 support, which kind of should have been left behind, that does work on there. So this iPad steps forward in some ways and backwards in other ways, and it's just really strange. My overall thoughts on this iPad is it's really good. If you can take it in a vacuum and just not look at anything else, this delivers a really solid iPad experience, but it's kind of difficult to take it in a vacuum because there's so much choice now with iPads. And the fact is, once you add the keyboard and the pencil, the price of this iPad skyrockets to just under £900 here in the UK, which is a huge amount. And you can pick up an iPad Pro model or an iPad Air model on Apple's refurbished store for around the same price of one of these brand new. So that's worth considering too. So that's kind of all I have to say about this iPad 10th generation. I think it's really good, and I think people that buy it are going to love it, but it does have that just air of strangeness about it. Let me know in the comments below if you picked one up or if you're sticking with your current iPad, or what you think of it below. I always love to read those. And of course, I will see you all in the next one.